virtual meet is a virtual meeting of the Wellfleet Selectboard, virtual only today, Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. Time is now 2:02 p.m. And as always, we will start with, hang on, let me just get the list of participants pulled up. We'll start with announcements and public comments. Public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. With that, I'm going to lead off with an announcement. I just wanted to shout out to our Public Works Department and our Public Safety Departments and Town Hall in general for a superb job through a very trying time this past week plus. Everybody really showed their true stripes, and I couldn't be more proud of this town and how we responded to the very challenging conditions. That's all I've got. Anybody else on the board?
I have my hand up. Can you see the hands up or not?
Yeah, I can. I'm sorry.
Just to kind of add to what you said, also thank Eversource for mobilizing the number of trucks that they did, and also to those that volunteered with the fire department and helping people, deal with not having power and heat often. So I don't know if the fire department has a list of those volunteers. I would like if in the future if we could potentially recognize their work in a letter of some sort. But that's all for me.
Okay,
Sheila has her lined up. Sheila has her hand.
Well, I mean, I just want to sort of underscore what you said, John and Ryan. And there was, I'm going to give credit to a lot of people outside. It was not just Eversource, but there was such a coordinated effort amongst all the towns and the county and the MAC. And, and even now we saw the real need of the food kitchen cooperative. You say, oh, gee, what is that? What is that all about when it was first being kind of conceived? And there it was, 17,000 meals they put out over that week. So we got a debriefing on that today. So I just want to say it was truly, if you don't look at Facebook and you looked at what went on the ground, everybody worked together, everybody reached out to help each other, and the world was actually a kind of a better place without all the noise. And we cut down to who we are and what we are. And I think it was a kind of a reminder at the right time. So get off Facebook, everybody, and talk to each other is all I can say. And thank you to everyone who helped everybody else. And I'm glad everybody survived. Thank you.
I would add to that, our friends north of the border were present and accounted for among those crews working with Eversource. And given what's been going on, I think that's a real credit to a long-term friendship of our two nations.
Yeah, there's a lot of relationship building that showed.
So the only one more thing I'll add, unrelated to this, is that I am going to have hours at Town Hall for anyone who's interested, wants to bring some concerns to me. I will be at Town Hall on Saturday from 12 to 3. I believe it's been posted on the website. That will be on Saturday at the upstairs conference room at Town Hall. Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add one anecdote that I did wanted to share about the community coming from folks that are not familiar with our community. I had an issue with my transformer, and on Friday I had 6 gentlemen from the Tennessee, Western Tennessee, They all asked me essentially the same question, which was, why are people in Wellfleet so damn friendly? Um, they said we show up in people's worst days and everyone's angry by the time we show up. But they just said everyone in this community was charitable and warm and welcoming, even though they've been without power for a week. And so I think it's just a testament to the community, and I think everyone should just be really proud of that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a-
One more
yeah.
thing, Mr. Chair. Speaking of office hours, I have office hours on Monday, the 9th from 11 to 12:30 at the COA or ACC/COA. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's also on the website.
Okay, there's
I think
nothing
they
else,
come to me after they go to church.
there's nothing else on the board, then I will go to our the people weighing in. Tim Sayer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out that on the agenda, it says that we're asking, the SAB is asking for permission to send a letter about Maurice's to an outside source. That's incorrect. It should have been a beach renourishment letter. So if that can be added to the next agenda at your next meeting, I would appreciate it. It's
It
not a
should
Maurice.
say it in the motion.
Well, it doesn't mention on the agenda. I mean, I don't know if it's legal, so I just wanted to make, on the agenda, it says Maurice's letter, but it's a beach renourishment letter.
Okay,
Just a point of clarity, the motion says letter from Shellfish Advisory Board, permission to be included with the conservation agent's grant proposal, and the letter we have is with regards to beach nourishment. So we can move on that today.
Okay, I just want to thank you.
no, you
No.
can't.
No, we can't.
Yeah, I didn't
No.
think. Okay, well, if you would add it to the next agenda, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Certainly.
Have a good day.
Okay. Sorry, I just got distracted for a second here. Hang on. Okay.
Samuel Cotis has his hand up, and then Matt Rosenberg.
Oh, okay. Mr. Cotis? There you go. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Hi. Thanks very much. I live out here on Williams Pond in the National Seashore, and we were among the very last to get our power back. We got our power back Sunday evening, and for a few days, the road, we live on a dirt road on Thoreau Way and Way 657. The roads were totally impassable due to fallen trees, and we were, calling the police department and others, and we're patient. I mean, we weren't looking to, we knew there was a ton of work that needed to be done in town. No complaints. Initially, the information we were getting from Eversource was that they were not going to fix our lines because there's an issue with some of the lines back here being considered a private line. And so that was very worrisome. But then at some point, Eversource reversed what they had originally been saying, and then they came and fixed everything, and it was really amazing. And I'm not exactly sure if there was anybody weighed in at some point, or they just made this decision that they weren't going to leave people in the cold in February, March. But there was a bit of confusion, I'd say, for a few days while we were stuck back here. And I guess the only thing I would say is, don't forget there are some people back here. I know there was a ton of work that needed to be done in town center and elsewhere, but we're always the last ones to get our power back. And it was a pretty stressful week, but happily the snow is melting. And I just wanted to thank all the work that was done, especially Eversource. But the roads back here are a complete mess. And I don't know if the town can look to try to do some work on that or work with the park. But I mean, there's a lot of damage on the road and a lot of, it's passable, but it's pretty bad. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Rosenberg.
Hi there. I have a comment on the STR bylaw. I don't know if it's appropriate to do that now or wait until that item comes up on the agenda.
No.
I would do it now because I don't believe we're taking public comment during the agenda item.
Great. Well, I'm glad I raised my hand then. Matt Rosenberg, Spring Valley Road, and painstaking correspondent of yours on this issue. I have submitted a detailed letter on the draft bylaw, which I hope you have read, but I want to highlight three issues that I believe require amendment before this bylaw goes to public hearing and adoption. First, on occupancy limits, the draft limits occupancy to 2 persons per bedroom. Prior board discussions contemplated 2 per bedroom plus 2 additional guests, which is how they do it in Dennis and Chatham at the very least. I haven't done a comprehensive look through the Cape, but Dennis and Chatham are successful with that 2 plus 2 formula. Changing it to 2 per bedroom is a significant change that appeared without any prior public discussion. For a 2-bedroom home, that would be dropping from 6 guests to 4, a 1/3 deduction that would make some properties unrentable to the families who have traditionally booked them and may have stayed in those homes for years. Its occupancy is proportional to rents, so both potentially lost bookings and lower rents will cost the town money in lost STR excise taxes.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to everybody.
Mute.
I don't know if there's some confusion. I'll just keep going unless somebody stops me. Second, the local contact requirement. The draft requires a local person available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who can appear within 2 hours at any time of day or night. Nobody has thus far identified a scenario where this is necessary. Emergencies go to 911. Maintenance is handled remotely with local tradespeople. Guest complaints are not really a legitimate regulatory interest for the town. That's more a concierge service than a safety matter. No local realtor, even before the online travel agencies, no local realtor has ever offered round-the-clock availability. And there's no reason to mandate it now. I ask the board to either specify the safety circumstances that require physical appearance within 2 hours at any time of day or night, or just to remove this requirement. Third, as I've talked to you guys about before, is due process. Section 8.6 allows revocation of a certificate of registration after 3 verified violations in 6 months. But it doesn't define verified. It doesn't say who has revocation authority. It provides no notice to the owner, no hearing, and no appeal. 1 bad tenant in 1 weekend could generate 3 violations that the owner knew nothing about. The owner then loses their registration, has to cancel every contract for the rest of the season, could potentially face lawsuits for non-performance from tenants. That's not reasonable. I ask the board to establish a basic due process before any revocation. Notice, an opportunity to respond, and an appeal.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We are over the 3-minute limit. Can you wrap this up pretty quickly?
I got one more. So yes, registration's been open since January. Owners have signed contracts already based on requirements as they've existed. Anyone who's registered in good faith should not face any kind of enforcement in 2026 for requirements that were not in place when they registered. There's additional details in my letter. I'd ask the board to consider these changes. We've had a system in place that has always worked. There's no reason that I can see that the select board or anyone else has outlined to make things more difficult. I believe Mr. Yesson said in the past that you guys have been sort of dragged into these regulations by the state and would have preferred not to have to create this bylaw. If that's the case, then the changes that I'm proposing would let the town accomplish its and the state's safety objectives without unnecessarily making changes and creating unworkable requirements or punishing owners for things that they can't control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. Mr. Burkhead, or Ms. Burkhead, Jesse Burkhead.
Hi, I own a property at 35 Hopkins Drive that I've rented for 20 years without serious incident. And I was pretty appalled by the draft measure because it felt like it was really distrustful of how owners have operated their properties. And I wondered why the language felt as though we had been in need of a 24/7 operator. I have a local contractor, and I think that you enjoy as a town employing local contractors, and he's responsive, but to expect him to be available 24 hours a day is ridiculous. And um really, I just wondered what the goal of the the draft was, because it felt pretty punitive and unworkable to me. And also putting it in place this late in the season, when we already have our tenants in place with new requirements and new occupancy rules, felt really unworkable. So I looked at the Chatham short-term rental policy, and it seemed much simpler and more user-friendly and without a lot of requirements except for safety issues. So I wonder why there hasn't been more of a dialogue with owners to see what would be workable from all sides, rather than feeling like going from no oversight for years to this sort of repressive and invasive kind of scrutiny. I mean, I think before you put a law in place, and especially so quickly before the season starts, there should be input from people. So if you're going to have input March 17th, I mean, that brings us to 6 weeks before 2026. So I would second everything Matt said. I've contacted you by email as well, but I would really appreciate understanding what's behind this kind of sudden. It almost feels like you don't trust the owners to make good decisions for their properties and make good, everyone that I have repeat renters that come back year after year and give Wellfleet business. And I have contributed out of our tax revenue to the town. So I just really would prefer to have this be a more measured response. That's all I can say. And I've written to all of you, and I'll write to you individually. And I really feel that I don't understand why this process feels so hostile. And it does. To me, it feels very hostile. Like,
3-minute mark.
So, well, that's the end. I read Matthew's response. I agree everything on it. I'm not as an articulate, researched person as he is, but I did write to you, and I changed my whole day today so I could be there with you. Okay, good.
Let's see. We have Mr. Gavelic, Dave Gavelic.
Hi, this is Dave Gavlik, 220 Eastwind Circle. My wife and I have been short-term renters for, 12, 13 years without major incident. I think I kind of feel very similar to the last two speakers on a lot of things I read in the draft. I don't know how much I could get into in 3 minutes, but maybe what I will commit to is writing up an email to all of you to kind of lay out some of the concerns I see, primarily with the section required documentation. I think if we're going to have required documentation, it needs to be clearer what satisfies some of the requirements that are being asked for. There's talk about required parking, but it's not really laid out how required parking is determined. So there's lots of things like that, if it's one thing to say something, but you have to really lay out what's going to be provided as evidence and what the requirements are. And a lot of that is missing from this draft. And maybe I'm most concerned about the section on excessive complaints, very similar objections or concerns as Matt laid out. I think it's one thing to put requirements on the owners on things that the owners can control. But when you put on requirements based upon what tenants might do that you have no control over, it's very worrisome to me. So again, I'll lay all this out in an email and send it to you, and I appreciate your attention to that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Gavlik. And we have somebody. The name I see on here is TARAG. If you could identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Tara Goss with Inside Out Properties. I just have a very quick question. Have all 6 of you read Mr. Rosenberg's letter? And a follow-up question to that, did you read the attachment that he sent with it as well?
Well, we're not. This is public comment. We don't engage in back and forth. I think I can speak for all of us that we have received the letters, and we read our emails.
So you have all 6 of you have read the letter that he sent?
I'm not going to allow the select board to answer individually.
What is?
It's been made clear that during public comment, we will not discuss or vote on anything that's raised.
No, that wasn't the question. The question was, did you read the letter that he sent? Because we're addressing things that are in the letter that was sent, but you're all looking like you have no idea what he's talking about. So I'm a little confused. That's all I was asking.
Mr. Chair, as the clerk, maybe I can handle this as
yes, go ahead.
As a select board clerk, I confirmed receipt of the letter that you're speaking of to the sender. The select board has received the letter and received the attachment.
Is there anything further? Any further question?
Nope, I think you're good.
Okay. Any other hands raised? I don't see any. And if there's no further comments from the public, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Hang on, let me get this. The consent agenda is renewals of common victualler licenses for Billingsgate Market, Seabird Cantina, Max Shack, Max on the Pier Market, the seafood market. Is there anyone on the board who would like to remove any of these items? I'm sorry, Ryan, you got your hand up?
Yeah, we need to remove the letter from the Shellfish Advisory Board. It's, listed on the agenda as Maurice's when it's to the Conservation Commission. As Mr. Sayer was saying, we can't act on it, so it needs to be removed from the consent agenda.
I apologize. I asked for clarification and I obviously didn't get it in time.
Oh, it was.
Well, that's all.
Oh, I see.
I'm ready to make a motion if there's no other objections from the board.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the following items with no objection. Renewal of common victual license for Billingsgate Market, Seabird Cantina, Max Shack, Max on the Pier, Max Market on the Pier. Use of town property, annual MS bike ride, June 28th, 2026. Rebecca, what's the fee for this? And for the next one?
The common victualler, there's no.
No,
For use of town property.
Annual bike rides.
I think it's $800. I have to look at the fee schedule that you guys have.
Okay, Mr. Chair, what I would recommend is that we table the consent agenda to the end of the meeting and allow Rebecca to give us the definitive fees.
That's fine.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and move that to the end. We'll put that before select board reports, though.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, then moving on to business item A, the short-term rental bylaw to be inserted in the. Wait, let me move this. To be inserted in the Springtown meeting warrant. Who wants to start off with this?
Mr. Chairman, as an introduction only, the board has been, through staff, has been putting together a short-term rental bylaw based on prior meetings, and has been working to develop that proposed bylaw. We remember, if the board remembers, we talked about a bylaw versus a charter amendment. We went to council, got the opinions on each. A bylaw seems to make sense, as we discussed before. It's easier to amend if it's necessary. Ann has worked with other communities and other professionals in the field and gone on the web, as well as meeting with other housing specialists in putting this together. It's presented for you today for discussion and amendment prior to a public hearing that is scheduled later on. Ian, you want to kind of walk us through?
Sure. So do you all have the document in front of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what we gave you was a clean doc and then the comments from KP Law. So the clean doc is what I wrote. I sent it to KP Law, and these are the revisions. I have not updated the clean doc because we had this meeting today. It's pretty self-explanatory. Some of the areas that are highlighted in blue are, some are grammatical, some are questions back to you. So if we look at section 4, number 4, she added in terms of required information. You might want to add the building department BOH files. I didn't have that in here. I think Matt's comment about taking out local, I don't care the language taking out local, but as a homeowner, I rented before, you do have to have someone you can contact if there's a problem at the house. And I know renters expect immediate response if something is happening that is causing a problem. So I don't have a problem with taking out the word contact local, but we do have to have the ability to have someone respond to an issue. The question back to you is if you wanted to put in more details on that about what type of an issue it is. If it's a health or a fire or a safety. Most towns don't have that specificity in their bylaws or their regulations. So it's up to discussion for you guys.
Okay, Ryan?
Yeah, I would remove this section, actually. A lot of this is handled through the rental contracts. If you're in violation of your contract, there's basically the renters can, recover the cost of rental at the expense of the homeowner. In general, overall, I was expecting a much skinnier bylaw that was simpler than what we have before us. And I think that, one of the benefits of doing a bylaw is you can take an incremental approach where, let's say there's an issue that's identified after putting in, basically, whatever the minimum criteria is, and then there's an issue, then you amend the bylaw and approach it that way. I do think that this is getting, the town's not a rental agent. And this is all stuff that's, handled through rental agents and things of that nature. And it's just too much for me personally.
And can I ask what specifically you're talking about in the document, or just this section, or is there specific sections
I have a lot of specific sections, but overall for the document as a whole. But for this specific one, the requirement that somebody be able to be contacted 24 hours a day is crazy. Businesses, tradesmen, I mean, you shut off your phone often, so that you don't get, a call in the middle of the night. Um, and then for them to be able to respond within 2 hours is, I mean, if you try to get a plumber in the summer, it's going to take longer than 2 hours.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, where are you seeing the 2 hours? I've heard this mentioned a few times, and I'm not seeing it in the
It's
language.
under required information,
Bullet 3.
4.1, at number 3. Contact
Oh.
information must include a telephone number that is active 24 hours a day for short-term rental occupants. And then
No,
the
thank you. I was
person
looking at
that,
section 5 for that. Thank you. I missed that in section 5.
and then that, yeah, they have to be a contact available within 2 hours.
Hey, Sheila?
First, I just want to reassure people that that this is a requirement of the state, and it's our first time going at this, and it's not meant to be punitive or draconian. And I do think that a lot of people do have their person that they have as a maintenance person, and they are contractors. They're the regular folk around here, like Corey or Jeremy or different people who provide service when they need it. And plumbers usually do have their phones on it because they do know that they can get those calls in the night. But if they don't, that's not, our issue. But I do think that as long as they have someone that they know, and I'm sure all of these people, if they've been doing it for years, have that contact that they have start getting things ready. So I think the specificity that's in this document is kind of throwing people off, where these things have sort of been done for a long time, as they've gone along. But right now, the state is requiring that we know where people are renting, that they are in a safe environment with fire alarms and smoke, and carbon alarms, and that, their landlords are giving them the proper information that they can reach out to if something comes up. So I understand this is the first time for people. It might feel like it's punitive. It's not meant to be. It's just really, we're trying to keep people safe and know where they are in case there's a disaster like we just went through in the summertime. So, and reach out to people. So I'm not sure how you're going to handle that, Ann. I'm just saying. I do think that we can we can streamline some of this and just make it the basics, and then see how this works, and we can make changes before the next requirement of next year and make sure it's communicated what worked and what seemed overdone.
Barbara? And then I'm going to call on myself.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So through the chair to Anne, just focusing specifically on section 4, required information, name and contact information. So I guess there's kind of two relationships here. There's a relationship between the owner and the renter, and then the owner and the town. And I agree that, most of what's between the owner and the renter is in their own contract. But what are, I'm prepared to support this, but what are the circumstances under which we envision that the town really would need to be involved, and that's why we would need to know that there is a person available, within 2 hours?
I mean, I would hope this doesn't have to happen. I would think
Right.
that most homeowners who are experienced know when their renters are there, know who's calling them, knows their, just like Sheila said, all their contact people.
Yep.
In the event there is an issue which is beyond the owner's control, which is jeopardizing the neighbors around the rental or anything of that nature, then the town would get involved, which means police, fire, safety,
Okay.
health. But I really don't think this happens much. I don't think
Okay.
we've ever tracked it as a town because, like Sheila said, this is a brand new regulation. So, I'm just going to go with your direction, all of you, on what you'd like to do. And then, when we take the next meeting on the 17th.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'll support it as is, sort of going into the meeting and we'll see what happens. So thank you for that. The other area I had a question about was in 7.3 maximum number of short-term rentals permitted by a single owner. So I think the idea is to give sort of vested rights to people who have operated more than 3 previously. So is there are owners going to have to make, who have short-term rentals historically who've had more than 3, say, are we going to require them to select 3, or are we going to permit them to have as many as they have in the past? Like, are they grandfathered for all of their units?
Right. So that language was recommended by KP Law.
Yep.
Because other towns are doing it. What other towns have done is typically at the date this goes in effect, if you have 3 pre-existing, your grandfather going forward, you can't have more than 3.
Okay.
There isn't that many that have more than 3, honestly. It's a small percentage, but it's a way to, the other towns are doing it as a strategy to not encourage outside real estate to come in, buy up properties and rent them out. So it's a topic for discussion because we haven't talked about it before.
I guess that, yes, I did not, I see that it was suggested by council and that we haven't had a discussion yet.
Right.
So let's have that discussion. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have questions. I have a number of them, but I'll try and keep it short. As per the issue in section 4 about having somebody on hand, I can vouch as a more or less retired tradesperson that, and as somebody who has done short-term rentals, that expecting a call back from a tradesperson within 2 hours is pretty optimistic. Most of my trade work was taking care of some of the restaurants around here. And when something breaks down in a restaurant, it's pretty much an emergency. But a lot of the tradespeople here are, like myself, sole proprietors. They might have one employee or they might not have any. They just do the work themselves. So it's a bit of a, I understand that, we are in the position of trying to comply with a state mandate. This is something we're dealing with on a number of levels, as you know. So we're trying to find our way on this. And I concur with my colleague, Ryan, that we should be taking a minimalist approach and then adding what we need as we go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Another concern is the maximum overnight occupancy as shown in section 5.1. For instance, I've personally seen a setup where, and it's not uncommon, where you might have a bunk room for kids with, two bunk beds with, each one with 2 beds up and down. This is a very common arrangement, and according to this, it would be illegal. So I think this really needs to be a look needs to be taken at that. When a property is rented out, it's rented out as X number of bedrooms for X amount of money. I don't think it should be anybody's concern how many people are in these bedrooms, as long as they're not like 15 people in a room.
Well, through the chair.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but one of the things we have to look at, I agree that if what you're saying, but we have, the septic loads on these properties and that type of thing. If it's a 3-bedroom, you got 12 people in 3 bedrooms, that puts a load on the septic. So there are other things other than just the physical house, on how many people are in the room. Those are the things that I think we've been trying to tackle as well.
I get that, but the fact is, a house has, let's say, 4 bedrooms, just to pick a number. One of those bedrooms is a bunk room with 4 bunks in it. You know, two bunk beds. That house, presumably, when they received their occupancy permit, was in compliance with the septic regulations. So why would this be an issue for a rental?
They would be in compliance relative to the 4 bedrooms, number of gallons per day per room. That's how they set it up.
So
But on the commercial, I'm sorry, Ryan, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the state sanitary code sets the limit
Right.
of people per bedroom, but it's based off of the square footage of a bedroom. I would have to look it up. I think I don't know. I know for 2, I think it's 250 square feet. The first person requires more, but that's already baked into the state sanitary code. But so if it's a larger bedroom, you can have more than 3 under the existing state sanitary code.
15 by 15.
Okay, well, that's all I've got for right now. I don't want to take up other people's time. So, Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important for members of the public to understand a few things before we start to get into the substance of my comments on the regs. I think first and foremost, the board saw this version of the regs the same time the general public did. I think there might be a misunderstanding that the select board is working outside of a public meeting to craft these. That's not the case. And so when we're receiving comments, please understand that we're reacting to the same documents that you are at the same time. Additionally, I at least want to personally recognize that I think the vast majority of individuals that have used their properties for short-term rentals in this town have done so with an incredible amount of grace and care for the community and are good renters. And this is not directed to be punitive or aggressive towards what is a traditional Cape Cod business, which is a short-term rental of a summer home. And so I do want the public just to understand that this is not directed to be punitive in any way. I think it's important for the town to have a regulation now that we're responsible for registration, especially with the increase of people that are new to investment properties being short-term rentals. And we need to make sure there are safeguards for individuals that have not had a legacy of renting out their homes, that don't understand how to be a respectful neighbor. And so I think these are necessary. But at the same time, I agree with my colleagues that I'm not sure you need a local contact per se. I think you need to have you as the owner either be the contact or a designee. No one is more interested in their guest experience than the homeowner, right? And so they're going to go above and beyond to correct any issue, whether it's small or large, for their guests, because their business relies on positive reviews. And I think we have to just assume positive intent with operators and homeowners with these regulations. So I don't think they need to be local. I think we need to have a registered contact phone number just in case we need to get a hold of somebody, but I don't think they need to be local. I don't think we need to specify 24 hours a day or a 2-hour response time. I just think we need to have a phone number on file of the person responsible for the business that's operating a short-term rental. I think there's some confusion going down in section 4, required documentation number 6, a copy of a site plan. I think that just requires possibly a definition of what the fidelity of a site plan needs to be. I don't believe the intent is to have a stamped engineering site plan of a property. I personally would not be supportive of that because that would be a tremendous burden to everybody. But I do think it's reasonable for someone to take a black magic marker and draw a rough schematic of their house and just point out where all the bedrooms are. And I think that could possibly prove useful in an emergency situation. Maybe not. We might want to just strike this from the record altogether, strike it from the bylaw altogether. But I certainly didn't read it as requiring a professional engineering document. With regards to maximum occupancy, I did a lot of research. Title V doesn't have a definition of how many people can be in a bedroom. It assumes 2 people per bedroom because they're just trying to uh, project flow, but there's no outside restriction. I think the bunkhouse example that Mr. Wolf shared, or bunk beds is a great example of why we should allow a little bit more than 2 per bedroom. I think a 2 per bedroom plus 2 individuals is totally reasonable. But I agree that we should not be encouraging through this bylaw to pack in 6 people per bedroom. I don't think anyone wants to do that, but I think it's reasonable to have some form of occupancy limitation. I think we need to have, whether this is in the bylaw or just an educational moment for the community, there already are corrective measures and curative measures if you are cited for a violation that exist, right? So if the building inspector issues you a violation, my understanding is that would then go to the ZBA if you needed to appeal that decision. If the health inspector were to write a violation, then that would go to the Board of Health for an appeal. And there's always just the district court system. I believe the enacting bylaw is Article 1-1 of the Town of Wellfleet bylaw regarding non-criminal disposition. So, the default path, and this happens all over town for other industries in the Town of Wellfleet, is that if you receive a fine because you're found in violation of something, you always have the opportunity to appeal to the district court, to a magistrate judge. They are built exactly for a curative process. So, I don't necessarily agree from some of the comments that there is no curative process in place. Many are in place. I do think, however, that it would be good for the town to educate the public on what those avenues are so that they're well aware of them. That's all I have for now. I look forward to, a robust public conversation on the 17th.
Okay, Sheila?
So thank you, John. I just also want to talk about the occupancy. I think a lot of people are nervous that they don't really have control once they've rented that, they're not here, they've rented the house. And so I've rented this house, and geez, I got friends in town and they just came and they're here for the weekend, and hey, you guys could stay, and they stay the weekend, and it goes over this occupancy. This is not going to be the issue that we're sending, inspectors over on and making sure. That's really going to be your issue, because you're letting, you're going to be aware of more people or not. If nothing happens, they're there for the weekend. So it's not like we're able to drive around and make sure all of these things are in place. It's basically a safety issue. It's to know that people are in certain buildings. Number one, just like they were there this weekend in the woods, we needed to know that they were there, and it wasn't just a summer rental they were living in. It was being occupied during a winter storm, and they were going to need help. So it's almost the same thing, and that you are renting with the safety precautions built into the house. So I know that people are probably nervous about all of this. It's not as it's not like we have a force that's going to go around, a rental force to check on all of this. It's basically this. So there are some things that are beyond those momentary controls. We get that, as John is saying. Sometimes you get bunk beds in the bedroom. Okay, that's what you're doing for the summer with this house, and it usually, maybe it's dormant all winter, who knows. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you. I won't belabor it. Barbara?
Okay, actually, there was an issue raised. I just wanted to, this is a bit of an aside. One of my colleagues raised the issue that in the past I've done short-term rentals myself. Currently, the rentals, the only rental I'm doing is a long-term rental, so I don't think that really is going to be a concern going forward for me. I've kind of gotten out of the short-term rental business, actually. So that aside, let me go to Ryan.
Yeah, so a lot of these requirements are much more extensive than what's being required by the state. So people should take that into consideration. The state sanitary code rather than the building code is typically the one that sets the maximum occupancy per bedroom. It's I believe it's 70 square feet for the first person and 50 square feet for each additional one. And that's 150 CMR 410. So that should be included or at least listed alongside with the state building code just to cover the bases. It's again where posting of standards, maximum number of occupants allowed per building or fire code. Again, this is mostly the state. Well, there's a maximum occupancy that might be set by the fire code, but it's not going to be like the maximum occupancy for residency there because you can have, much larger amount of people in a building based on the fire code. It's the sanitary code that kind of will limit that. The maximum number of short-term rentals permitted by a single owner. I know what the intent here is, and it's something I generally am supportive of. I am kind of concerned though, because each individual unit on a property has to have its own separate certificate. And so like we only have a handful of them left, but cottage colonies that are still owned by a single entity. Those always have more than three on the property. And the bylaw doesn't allow for rent certificates to be transferred. So upon the sale of the property, the maximum number of short-term rentals on that property would have to be three unless the ownership is divided. And so I've been trying to think of a way around it. And I would maybe if we say in like a single family home, the maximum number that can be single family homes owned in common ownership as one way of getting around that, or writing an exception on cottage colonies or in other like facilities. The cottage colony is defined in our zoning, so is a single family home. So we could reference that. Because I just, I like the cottage colonies. They're cute, they're quaint. That they've long been a part of the rental landscape here. A lot of them aren't winterized, some of them are. And the alternative of that will basically see them, likely getting broken up, and then sold individually and then rebuilt into, larger houses because that's what's been happening with some of them. So that's my suggestion there. And then, I do think that we obviously want some information, but the less that we require initially, the easier this will be to get off the ground. And then, as I said, if there's an issue that occurs that we see really needs to be addressed by the town and not necessarily by people in their private capacity, we can amend the bylaw then. Also, the bylaw might want to have a reference on how regulations might be able to be formed, just to cover that base in the future as well.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think that maximum overnight occupancy, section 5.1, is important with respect to sanitary code and compliance. And I wonder whether we have or could get the Board of Health or the health agent to weigh in on this. And if there's a way of tying the maximum occupancy to Title V sizing of septic systems, something like that, because I think it is important. And I think, that we are mindful of those impacts of overcrowding one of these rentals, and the implications of that for septic. So thank you, and I hope we could get an opinion.
Thank you, Barbara. Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad Mr. Curley brought up the college colony. So I'm looking through my notes. I had something written down there, but I couldn't remember what it was. I mean, the long-term effect of the prohibition of more than three would be that, you know, if a family had to sell a cottage colony property, it would significantly devalue that property. So I think I would agree and be supportive of either an exemption from a traditional cottage colony or possibly a rewording of how we define or short-term rental might just be a single parcel. We already have a prohibition on using an ADU as a short-term rental, so there wouldn't be a risk of doubling up on a single parcel for single-family homes. I don't have a solution, but I wanted to echo Mr. Curley's concern over that. Thank you.
Yeah. And you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say right now I've only identified one cottage colony that is owned by, I mean, I just talked to the person, more than three, unless they haven't registered yet or historically. I do think it's a good idea to think about something like that, but right now the data doesn't show that there's there's a lot of college colonies that are owned by one individual. A lot of them are individually owned. They have one person maybe who manages it, kind of like a cottage colony association. But as of now, I've only seen one that's got more than three.
Yeah, we have at least one corporation I can think of that manages a large number of properties, Del Mar Vacations. Ryan, or do you have your hand up?
There's more cottage colonies than one that are still held in single ownership. I mean, there's not going to be like 20 of them out there. Most of them have been individually condoized over time. But there's still ones out there that are, held, owned singly. I would say Title V design flow is actually not based on having two people per bedroom. The Title V does, when that design flow was developed, obviously there were situations where more than three people were in a bedroom or that there were less than two people in a bedroom. And basically the intent there is to capture the peak flow that would be possible and not necessarily the average, because you don't want somebody to put in a septic system that ends up being undersized for what they're going to be used. I do think, as we've seen, there is overcrowding in the short-term rent and some of the short-term rentals in town and across the Cape. I do think that, some limitation on the amount of people and one might make sense. I'd be more comfortable using the state sanitary code to kind of define that, but if it's I'm not really sure about doing it by the suggestion of doing it two per bedroom and then each house gets two additional, because there are ones that are too small to handle that, and probably shouldn't, but it gets really complicated pretty quickly. I would also note that, anything that's had a building code pulled in the last, number of decades, there's plans on file with the town for, where the bedrooms are and everything of that nature. And, yeah.
Okay. I just have a quick question for Ann. And that goes to the it's section 7.2 and 7.3. I'm assuming that that's just geared towards preventing more single ownership of multiple units than we already have.
Yes.
I think
7.2 is to keep corporations out. 7.3 she added in. So that's really up to the select board. But yeah, it's to stop corporations from coming in and just buying up properties and using them as short-term rentals. We need year-round rentals more short-term rentals.
yeah, that seems like a worthwhile goal.
And can I make one other comment? The for section, the site plan and the limited liability corporation, those were added by the lawyer because I didn't add those. Site plan to me is if we want this to be held under Board of Health versus the building department. That's a question. And limited liability and S Corp seems like we already have that in 7.2. So it's redundant.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
So my experience with council is always they'll put in as many provisions as they can. And there's a balancing act that needs to happen. And we've seen that, more than once where there's like provision overload, I would call it almost. Yeah. So
I'm learning.
As are we all. I would just a sec, Tom. I just wanted to say, I wanted to reiterate something Josh said earlier regarding the public perception. First of all, we do get the emails, we do read them, and in many cases we share the concerns that we not make the process more onerous than it needs to be in order to comply with state requirements. That's, for instance, why we're having a public hearing. I know it's one question I have for Ann, being as somebody pointed out earlier, it is getting close to the rental season, and people often by now have agreements signed.
Mm-hmm.
How does that get addressed? I mean, how if they've signed agreements and there's some question as to whether they're compliant with whatever we might adopt by way of regulations, how do we deal with that?
Well, I mean, that's up to you. Do we decide that we write a note in for this rental season that the regulations, the bylaw are being written and we're going to honor if it's they have 8 and a 6, I don't know. I'm sure we could do something like that, but I don't even know because the legal side of it. But we're not expecting people to call tenants who already paid and say, okay, you can't have 2 more people. That's just not realistic. We're out of compliance with this. We need to do it. We're trying to figure it out to set it in place for really next rental season, and just to ensure that we're complying right now. That would be my response. I don't know if we can do something like that, which is for people who are concerned only about, out of 300 short-term rentals, only about 24 have had discrepancies in number of bedrooms and what we see on the property card, and probably 4 or 5 people have called asking about the max occupancy.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that's
so the
Just
board
so you know.
it just happens. It sometimes it just happens.
is going to need to consider how we handle this to avoid putting property owners in an untenable position. Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of close the loop on this. That's what today's meeting and what's going on here is exactly what we need to have done, so we can go back, take the concerns that have been brought up both in public comment and by the select board, make the adjustments where we can, bring it back to you for the public hearing. There will be adjustments made after the public hearing too, I am sure. And then for final disposition. That's the way I see this moving ahead. But the idea today was to take your input, take your concerns, take the stuff that didn't make a lot of sense to Wellfleet as compared to perhaps other communities, and try to massage this thing so it works a little better. I give Ann a lot of credit. I mean, she's been spending a lot of time putting it together, but the whole idea was to give you the full plate, and then you decide whether you want to a la carte it or going for the full 3 course.
I concur, and I appreciate, Dan, the hard work you've put into this. None of this is intended by way of criticism. You've given us a template, and now we're working with it with the public, and I want the public to be assured that that's why we're engaging in this process, is to avoid putting people who've acted in good faith in a precarious position. Josh?
Yeah, something we may want to consider is writing into the bylaw an effective date of January 1st, 2027. And so we can have the bylaw on the books. It doesn't go into effect until next year. And then the town can use this season as an opportunity to really pay attention to how everything's operating now that we have registration. We've already established registration. We already require registry. We can implement the regulations starting in the new year as just a thing to mull over. I'm sure there's arguments against that, but just something to consider. Or possibly just some of the sections of this regulation go into effect the following year, and to allow an easing into this new process, such as occupancy, such as site plans, et cetera, et cetera.
Barbara?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll save it for next discussion. Thank you.
Dan?
So the only thing I was going to, unless Tom had something to say, was to kind of go through on what I heard so I can edit this document. So if that's good. So the first edit was really section 4 on required information, required documentation. To remove that, and maybe that's just in the kind of the operational side of registering. So it would be in the online registration through OpenGov. Is that correct?
That's what
Yes,
I
no?
Yeah.
I mean, we can put in the OpenGov, when you go through it, they have to put in a contact information. And if it's not them, they have to put someone that can be reached. Right.
That's a state requirement, right?
No.
Software.
No, I think, just Mr. Chair, through you,
Yes.
I do think that this regulation should govern the registration process. And that's something that I hadn't even really considered, that we need to probably add language, but I think that can be truncated to something very tight. But part of the short-term rental bylaw is a requirement to register through a means as defined by the select board. And then here's the information that you'll be required to give at the registration point. And I think that can be pretty light: contact information, et cetera, location of the rental, number of bedrooms, et cetera. Things that we were already asking for this year. But I do think we need to explicitly call out the requirement of a registration in this bylaw.
Okay, so in section 1.4.1, then you would want to have a more simplified paragraph, maybe adding it into the third paragraph under 4.1. On an application form provided by the town, the operator shall submit required information. And do we list it there, like bullet points?
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I can do that. All right, and
We already
then
have that in the paragraph above. I apologize. We do have that on an application form provided by the town.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the 4.6 and 4.7, are we striking those, or are we leaving them until we figure out more about the sanitary code? 4.7's redundant. We know that because we already have that. But 4.6, which talks about how many bedrooms, site plan, and number of parking spaces.
I,
Wait, I'm lost on through the chair. Maybe I'm now looking at the wrong one, but wasn't
The one that's got the edits from the lawyer, that's what we're
Yeah.
going through right now.
Yeah.
I'm at the top of page, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, where it's got 5, certificate of registration, 6, a copy
Oh,
of the
right,
site
sorry.
plan, 7.
Yep.
No, that's okay.
Got it.
I'm,
Yep, got it.
it sounds
So-
like we're trying to get rid of or remove these last 2, 6 and 7. But I want confirmation.
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, I am comfortable and support this as is. And that's what I would take to the hearing, but I hear my colleagues saying they want something less. So if that's the sentiment, then that's
I'm
the
not
sentiment.
6.
What was that?
I'm finding it's 4.
It's not 4.6. It's just the 6th bullet point under required information.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it looks like
This-
5.6 with 5 crossed out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
5.1 is maximum overnight occupancy.
Yeah.
I'd let that go.
Yeah, I do think we need to define maximum overnight occupancy in some way, shape, or form. As I said, there's obviously ones that do have overcrowding. I did send the state sanitary code and the language there. We could follow that, or we could try to define it. I'm concerned about also if it's a formulation where it's, as I said, 2 per bedroom and then each one gets 2 extra, that will run into situations with undersized rentals that then have way too many people for what they can actually handle.
Yep.
Okay, I have a quick question for Ann, and then I'll go to Josh, who I saw has his hand up. The question is, are you included on the email chain of the emails that we're getting from the public?
No.
I wonder if there would
I
be.
send a lot of those things.
Oh,
to-
yes, Sheila has sent me some, but I'm not directly on the email. Sheila's been my friend to send them to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel that those are things that belong to her, so I always push them forward when there's comments being made of anything in Ann's.
I think it might be useful going forward to have her included on that, but I'll leave that up to you
I
all.
agree.
Josh?
Just to respond to Mr. Curley's suggestion of using the sanitary code, if we went that direction, we would need a verified site plan, because then we would have to verify square footage, which I think might add administrative burden to verifying maximum occupancy that I don't know if we want to give to this. So I do appreciate the concern that there might be a few outliers of undersized rentals, but I think requiring the registration process to verify square footage to understand maximum occupancy might become just an untenable ask for the amount of staff and bandwidth we have. So I wouldn't necessarily want to go in that direction. Like I said, I think 2 per bedroom, and then 2 free agents that can sleep somewhere in the house is fine. If some people have a bedroom where they have a king size bed and they have 2 twin beds tucked to the side, like that's it right there. So that's where I'm at with occupancy.
Hey, Barbara, and then Sheila.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, again, occupancy limit should be tied to septic capacity. And, that information is available in town records. So again, I would just ask that Board of Health and Health Agent be consulted on this provision. Thank you.
I agree. Let's not make it overly complicated with site plans and so forth. Sheila?
Yeah, thank you. I think, and this kind of for Ann, when a person, they're also registering with the DOR. This is really really probably what it's all about. But they have an application there, and all of this information is discussed because they're collecting tax payment from these people. So a lot of these questions are already on the state database. And, as I say, they're there are some things that are beyond a landlord's control. They're not there. Some people stop by, I'm renting the house for a couple of weeks. My friends stop by for 2 nights. I can put them up, put them on a couch or whatever. Is that going to be a violation for people? I don't think so. I think that we're not able to do that, and those things happen on occasion. Now, I do have a friend who rents our house, and he rents it for so much, and then there's 15 cars coming. She's now aware of that, and she's had to deal with that. But that's a very rare thing, I think. I think there's the occasional people visiting, but I don't think that when you're renting, unless the house is that big and you have 5 people renting, a $10,000 a week house and there's 7 bedrooms, that's what that is. But on the whole, these things have gone on a long time. And I think what we're trying to do is meet the requirement of the state that we do have a registration. We know where people are. Their house is safe as far as we can make it, and move on. Let's just in whatever comes of this, and we have lessons learned for next year, we can apply them or remove them. And I'm with Ryan, let's make this as simple as possible as we're getting out of the gate, and monitor how it goes. Are there complaints, other issues, and we can deal with those in our bylaws for next year.
I can vouch, for the fact that I think most owners will do the right thing when they become aware of the violation. I had, when I was doing short-term rentals, I had a tenant. I have just a little cabin with 2 twin beds in it, and I had a contractor repairing my chimney. I was fast asleep, and when I got up and came out, he goes, "Gee, I didn't know that little cabin could hold so many people." I said, "Oh, do tell."
Right.
Turned out there were 5 people in there, so I ended up evicting the tenant over that.
Yeah.
That happens once in a while. People
Right.
will abuse the privilege, so to speak, and the owner becomes aware of it and deals with it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I agree with you, Sheila, on that. So anyone, any further comment?
I mean, the only other thing is to finish up, and I just think we go back to 7.3, which is max number of short-term rentals permitted. Ryan, Ryan and Josh, you guys want me to try to find some pre-existing cottage colony? And you're right, they could be some that have never done short-term rentals, but they're privately owned. From what I've gotten from the DOR, there's only one. So there could be more, but you're probably talking about it at time of sale. That how would you like me to word it?
I don't know. We have cottage colonies defined in our zoning. And we can just revert to that definition.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would kind of solve that issue. There's probably at least half a dozen that are still privately owned, and not condoized.
Okay.
Oh, I see the question that you're asking. It's about how many homes a person can own, basically. I mean,
not how many they can own, how many they can rent out short term.
Rent out
You could own
short
10
term.
houses and not rent them all out.
Right. So that is something that we have to, outside of a colony, we have to grapple with.
Right. Do you want to limit for this discussion at this level, non-cottage colony owners to 3?
I think it's what is being sort of done across the board, and it is because of these companies coming in and just taking over. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but that's my opinion.
I concur. The more we can do to limit that kind of thing in the future, I would even limit it. Well, more than that, but to 2. But
it's okay. I'm not averse to that. I'm just trying to be generous somewhat. I'm trying to kind of follow what has been thought through at other towns.
Yes, as Ann pointed out, the real critical mass here is encouraging long-term rentals, and it's hard to
Well,
do that.
we already are prohibiting in 7.2 corporate ownerships.
Yeah.
Right.
Short-term rental permitted dwelling units by corporation, partnership, real estate investment trust, or similar entity which pools funds for investors. Short-term rentals permitted in dwelling units owned by a limited LLC, trust, or company if it's owned by a legal entity. So we already have that language in there at 7.2.
Right. Well, I think 7.3 potentially addresses the the
But we
fact
can
that
still say, if we wanted to, there's a limit of 3 or 2.
Right.
Whatever,
I
we can
think
discuss this. I can throw something simpler.
the fact is that some of these people that are involved in this are pretty adept at making it seem like there's just one owner. And so 7.3 might address that usefully. Ryan?
Yeah, I would leave it at 3 for right now. If we want to change it later, we can. But I'm also just thinking about like, let's say there's a scenario where a person is part of multiple different trusts or LLCs.
Yeah.
The exact, I'm not sure how to address that here, because yeah.
I think Anne's got enough to go on for now. And I point out it's 3:22, and I believe, Tom, do we have a hard cutoff at 4, or is that not a hard cutoff?
No,
for the meeting. Yeah, we gotta move.
Yeah, you guys gave me good stuff. I can update it and revise it for next time.
Great.
It was a good piece of work, Ian, though.
It is very good.
Appreciate
And thank
it.
you.
Got a bylaw on my resume now.
We appreciate the hard work that went into this.
Thanks. And if any comments, you can send them.
Will do. I would encourage the public to continue through emailing us to weigh in advance of the public hearing. All right, so
and you can CC Ann Schiffenhaus as well on their email to the board, but make sure we do see it as well.
Yep. And so if that is it, then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is item B, to appoint town administrator to the board of directors of the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority, replacing Suzanne Rout Thomas, who is retiring. Tom, would you like to?
Mr. Chairman, this is an area that I have a lot of interest in. I served as chair of the Regional Transit Authority for 4 years, I think, but was a member for several years and would very much like to get back into that. It's a whole different set of circumstances up here about getting more service, not having service. When I was in Bourne, Sandwich and Bourne didn't have any service, and we had to work to get service. But I've been a long time public transit person all the way back to my Rural Development Council days, and would appreciate the board's consideration.
The only question I would have is, you're a busy man.
It's once a month, couple hours.
Okay. I'm fine with that myself. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Trying to leave too much on yourself. Anybody else?
And just one other point, Mr. Chairman, if I can. Suzanne Thomas has been our rep for a long time, even when I was chair, and her both presence, but her advocacy for the disabled community as it relates to regional transit and other things has been outstanding for way longer than I've been here.
An unrelated question on the last item. Do I need to hang on to the materials?
Yeah, I keep everything.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I move to appoint Tom Garino to the Board of Directors of the Cape Cod Transit Authority to take the place of Suzanne Grout Thomas upon her retirement.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Ryan, aye.
Aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye. Passes 5-0. Tom?
Thank you, board.
Congratulations, Tom. We'll be happy to see you back.
It'll be fun.
That's what makes you unique, Tom. You see these things as fun. Okay, item C. We'll move on to that, which is select board to award the transfer station study bid to Geos Ventec Consultants Incorporated.
Mr.
Tom?
Chairman, pursuant to the goals of the select board from the last year, the prior year and this year, a review of the business model for the transfer station, looking at the purple bags, looking at the setup we have. The town appropriated money for that. We went out to bid. We received one bid, as I recall, from Geosyntec. They are known on the Cape. They've done a lot of work here. We had put in an amount of $90,000. The bid came in at 146 plus or minus. I checked with council to see if that was something, if we could find the additional money within our existing budgets. Could we do this, or were we limited to the $90,000 threshold? Council responded that we are not, because it did not, the article did not, well, it wasn't in the letter this way, but it basically says the article didn't have a not to exceed number. So between Jay and I, we've been able to cobble the other $56,000 together from the town administrator's consulting line and some monies that he has left over from other projects, and we're able to get this done. Again, as I said, council has reviewed this before it comes to the board. Jay, anything else? Am I missing?
No, Tom, you got everything.
And we would like to get moving on it, and the board needs to award the bid.
Okay, Jay, as long as you're on here, thanks for all your hard work all this
Right,
last.
and your team.
I can't take all the credit. I got to hand it to my assistant Pete. He really was kind of boots on the ground, and his leadership was outstanding, and the rest of the crew too. So thank you all.
Yep. Tell Pete he did do a great job. Josh has his hand up.
Josh?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Norton. Are you satisfied with this response? Are you happy
Yes,
with?
I'm actually very excited. And one of the reasons for that is I don't know if you guys were able to read the whole RFP and response, but there is a member of the team that is very, very familiar with the Cape. And she's also done some feasibility and planning studies for Barnstable County for similar projects. So I think her expertise will bring a lot to the table, and it's at a very critical point for us to do this. So yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Unless there's any further questions, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to award the transfer station study bid and the notice to proceed with Geosyntec Consultants, Inc. as presented at today's meeting.
Second,
Roll call vote.
Ryan, I.
Barbara, I.
Sheila, I.
Josh, aye.
Don, aye. Passes 5-0.
Thanks, Jay.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
All right.
Hang on. So we'll see you tomorrow, right, Jay?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick on for the Heron.
Oh, you got to stay for this one anyways. All right.
Yeah, just in case.
Yep.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm recused from the next two.
oh, okay. Okay. Enjoy a well-deserved cup of coffee. Item D, to discuss the continuation of a portion of High Toss Road, send to the planning board, and for an article to go on the spring annual town meeting warrant. Who will lead this off? I think we're looking for
Carol or Jay?
Well, pretty simply, Mr. Chairman, Oh, thank you.
Carol on the meeting?
I don't see her.
She is, but I think she might need to be promoted to a panelist.
Rebecca,
Oh,
thank you.
hi, Carol.
Also, Katie Klein as well.
It keeps declining.
Good afternoon.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, Katie,
Uh,
Katie is on as well. Yeah, thank you.
Sheila, can I ask you to share this just for a couple of minutes while I
Go right
send
ahead.
Nature's
You
call?
you are excused.
So shall I start right in?
Right
Okay,
in.
great. Well, so as you may be aware, the removal of the High Toss Road causeway, including the culvert underneath the causeway, is a longstanding component of the Herring River Restoration Project. It's vital because it removes a significant tidal restriction that prevents tidal flow between Lower Herring River and Upper Herring River. And this is a feature of the project that was well discussed and vetted in the early years of developing the project, and a series of select board actions supported that feature included in the plan, including a vote back in 2016 to discontinue maintenance of High Toss Road and to approve a memorandum of understanding with the seashore that incorporates the removal as a portion of the project. The step, however, that was not taken, that council, and I don't see Katie yet, but she can opine on this. The step that has not been taken is the formal action to discontinue that portion of roadway. So you've voted to cease maintenance, but there has been no town action to discontinue the road. And it's felt that that's a prudent action to, to confirm the town's intentions with the section of the causeway. So as you're aware, also the road work is well underway. It's going rather well despite the weather. The crews have been doing a super job, and so we just want to make sure that we are aligned with all actions needed, so that this portion of the work that's part of the contract with N&M excavating can be undertaken with all of the authorizations in place for that work. So Katie has laid out the steps required. It's kind of analogous to laying out a portion of roadway where the select board votes its intention to discontinue. That matter is referred to the planning board for their input. They send a recommendation back. You take another vote to actually discontinue, and then it goes to town meeting to be ratified by town meeting. So I think Katie has provided the materials that were in your packet today. And so that's the basis of the request.
Okay, Ryan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. We just laid out High Toss Road in 2022. It was determined at that time that laying it out was critical to move the project forward. So I'm just wondering, if it was felt it was critical at that time to lay it out, which is what happened, went to town meeting, had those votes. Why it's now being discontinued, because it was felt that we had to establish the clear control over it to move the project forward.
Yeah, if I may
Go
respond.
right ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's work happening a portion of High Toss Road so the causeway is in essence between the intersection with Way 672 or Rainbow Lane and on the east, and then Duck Harbor Road on the west. And then so that portion of High Toss Road, actually the town's sort of laying out that portion was clearly specified as being a town road. It was the portion of High Toss Road from Way 672 to Pole Dyke that was in question. But when so in order to do the elevation work that's occurring, what actually has occurred between Way 672 and Hopkins, and the stormwater work that right there at Hopkins, we needed to lay out High Toss Road. And at that time, the decision was made to just incorporate all of High Toss Road in that layout. Even though there was clarity of town control over the causeway portion. So it was just, that was the rationale for laying it out then, was really to provide the authorizations needed for the work to occur on that roughly 1,000 linear feet from Way 672 to Hopkins. And for consistency, it was all included in the layout.
When we did lay that out, it was at that time we had multiple briefings, and it was undetermined whether or not the town controlled the portion that crosses the river. If we discontinue the easement, we lose our legal rights to access it, which then would make it impossible for us to legally remove the existing the causeway that's there. We would have to establish means of control over that section to be able to remove it, because our easement is, we didn't do a fee simple. It's solely an easement for the road, and when you discontinue the road, then the easement is no longer valid.
I don't know if that's true. Is that right?
Yeah, that would be a great question for Katie. And I am just going to see, is she not in the?
Because she has an older version of Zoom, the only way she's able to speak is being promoted to panelist, which I've tried to do, but it's not. Either she's not seeing how to do it, or it's just not working.
Okay.
Is there a way for her to call in?
I just texted her to ask her if she could possibly call in and see if maybe we could just hold that question to see if Katie could join on. And I think she would be in a better position to address this. But I do believe she has advised that this discontinuance is the prudent measure for the town to take.
While we're waiting, Josh, you have your hand up. Oh, John's back. All right, I'll give it back to you, John, after that.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm supportive of this measure. I think that the discontinuation of maintenance is sufficient. I think, and I could find the literature, but at some point the project had published and advertised that the members of the public would still have a right of way across the tidal flat during low tide through the paper road of High Toss Road. If we as the town discontinue the road and we lose the easement, then we know we have no future recourse if the town were to decide that they would want to restore access through that easement. I know this was brought to the town meeting 10 years ago and it failed, but it doesn't mean that in the future the town wouldn't want to consider a footbridge or any other means of access. And so I think it's in the best interest of the town to retain the easement. I don't know if there needs to be signage installed at the end of High Toss Road once the causeway is removed. I'm not suggesting that we stop removal of the causeway, but I am suggesting the town retains the easement as the paper road, so that if we did want to take an action in the future to restore access through High Toss, we could. Historically, there's been a bridge over the Herring River at High Toss. My understanding is it predates the dike and predates the Crescent Neck Road Bridge. So there's certainly historical precedent for having access. So I don't think I can support this, and I'm open to arguments that move me in a different direction. But at this present moment, I would advocate for the town retaining its rights to High Toss Road.
I have a question if I can recognize myself, John. Does this deter any progress if, say, this decision's not made today, or does this interfere with any of the successful completion?
Right. Let me respond to that. I think we may have Katie by phone. She may have just joined, which is great. So my understanding is, and Katie can confirm this, that this vote to discontinue is, the work could continue without this vote occurring. It's kind of an administrative matter that is prudent, but that the work, the removal of the causeway could in fact occur prior to this vote. But Katie, is that you? And if that is you, could you maybe
Yes.
question? Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
can.
can.
You hear me?
Yep, very clearly.
Okay. So yeah, the road, if it was discontinued, would the town's easement would basically go away, but the underlying fee is owned entirely by the National Seashore. So given that it's a joint project between the seashore and the town, I guess I didn't understand that there was an issue with the town performing the work in that situation.
There isn't.
There would have to be an agreement reached between the town and the seashore.
Well, I would just comment that this project is supported by the seashore. They're a partner with the town in undertaking the restoration project. They're fully aware of and supportive of the removal of the High Toss Causeway. So, and have not, we can certainly ask the pointed question to make sure if there's any special use permit that may be necessary to authorize the removal of the causeway. We certainly can put that question to the folks at the seashore. But I feel confident that, they're on board with the removal of the causeway.
Specific to Josh's question, would if the town retained ownership, would that interfere with the progress?
Well, and I recommended that the town that the town discontinue the causeway, given that there will be no road left. Essentially, I mean, the fill will be removed. So I thought in the best sort of, it would be the cleanest and the neatest thing to do that. But I also agree with Mr. Yeston that if the town does relinquish its easement, the town no longer has rights. And if the town wanted to establish some type of a, footbridge or something joining, what's essentially Way 672 and Duck Harbor Road, that right would no longer be there if the road were discontinued.
I'm going to call on Josh just by way of
follow up,
dealing with the point he raised.
No, I mean, that's very helpful. And just to put some punctuation on this, there is a scenario where we can continue with the removal of the causeway and keep the easement. Is that accurate?
I believe so, yes, in my opinion. Yes. I don't think the town absolutely has to discontinue the causeway. There are many roads I'm sure in Wellfleet and throughout the state where the town retains rights and the road is basically no longer passable. It may not be covered with, completely flooded like this is going to be, but certainly not passable.
Right. Well, this will be intertidal, my
overgrown,
The accessible tide is the thing, Josh.
In that case, it's my strong suggestion to this board that we take no action on this and we don't put this onto the warrant. If it's not necessary, then we should retain as many rights as we can to the town.
Yeah, Tom has.
Yeah, Tom? Did you have your hand up, Tom?
Yeah, he does. He's trying to unmute.
Yeah, Tom, you have to unmute.
He's trying.
Sorry, John. Is there a way, and maybe it's moot, to reclassify the road to, I don't know if they have it here, to like what we call where I live a class 4, where the town maintains a right of way in ownership, but there's no maintenance, there's nothing. They do nothing up on it. They just leave it fallow.
We've already done that. We did that in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, basically the distinction here is it would remain a public way, but the town would not have any maintenance obligations, and that
Okay,
my
that's all I
understanding
was
is
looking
the town
for.
has already done that.
Okay. Yeah, that was the 16 vote. Okay.
Carol?
I would just
Yes.
note that there's been no, I don't know that the existing easement would authorize any other form of crossing. I mean, there's been no discussion, vetting whatsoever of any other alternate crossing of this. And so I just, if the basis for not going ahead with the discontinuance is to retain the right of the easement for the purpose of potentially a future crossing, I think that would require further negotiation with the park, because there would be pilings, there would be impacts that are not known. And I just want to, kind of put that out there as well.
Fine.
I agree that the seashore would need to be consulted, because at that point it would be it would be a body of water.
It's going to be intertidal. So,
Meaning it'll bear at low tide.
yes. Or at least large sections of it. And the center of the river will, stay underwater, but the rest of it won't. And just thinking about this project overall, I mean, this has been presented to the public as basically a means of potential boat access to the project once it's done. But also, just looking at the work that's been involved, basically the town is the responsible party for the work unless the seashore is the responsible party. And because of that, whenever we are intruding on seashore property, we have to have a temporary easement. So even if we voted to discontinue this road, we would then need a temporary easement from the seashore to be able to access it to remove the existing causeway. Maybe it's something that's worth revisiting after everything's been removed. I know that the seashore is generally supportive of the project, but every single inch we're on the National Seashore property, we have to have a temporary easement for, and getting those is often taking over a year plus. So, if the interest is in, having this project continue to move forward, the safest path is, to take no action.
Sheila?
So by retaining our access, are we then we're retaining a certain amount of responsibility of people's safety, and I guess we're saying nothing's going to be maintained, so there's none of that. But what is the downside for as far as maybe liabilities, costs? Is there any that we can see, Tom, maybe, or Jay?
If the town has taken the action they took in 16 and the road is underwater and not traversable, I don't see any additional liability to the town. I'm not an insurance person, but
yeah, I think
I don't think there's any more liability than what you have now.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I think any claim of that nature would be very difficult for someone
I need to
bring.
escape for a minute, folks. Got a call coming in.
Okay.
John, I don't mean to interrupt, but
I'm in a meeting.
you're unmuted.
Text.
Yeah, can you mute?
Yes,
Tom's?
I can.
Okay.
I wanted to let you know that Helen Miranda Wilson has her hand up as the Herring River Executive Council, and asked if she could speak.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her hand up here. But yeah, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I regret coming to this late. First of all, I didn't know about it. Secondly, I had to do something else that was urgent. So as a person who was around for the many hours of meetings, both in the group of scientists that was meeting back then in open meeting and also other meetings about this one topic, has anybody already brought up, and this is mainly to Carol and Attorney Klein, has anybody brought up how carefully it was decided and understood that if you have any kind of berm there where this causeway exists now, it is definitely going to impede the restoration of that marsh and the tidal exchange. Hold on. If it's just what's at ground level, that is to say, no existing berm allowed to be there, which is what we had decided a long time ago and what's been permitted. If I don't, I understand that at this point very clearly. If it's just a matter of who owns like that layout down on marsh level, yeah, sure, let the easement exist. But all the different alternatives for having bridges there, for having, it left and not maintained, were exhaustively looked at. So I'm sorry once again that I'm coming in late. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And would somebody address this? The reason not to leave any bump of dirt there at all. Thank you.
Brian, you were going. Did you have some?
Josh.
Somebody was it you, Jay?
No, Josh has his hand up and Carol has her hand up.
Addressed Ms. Wilson's comment. No one is advocating for not removing the causeway. That's not the conversation. Everyone is in agreement when the board has already voted on the low-lying roads project, which allows for the removal of the causeway. This discussion is whether we should retain the easement and by such retaining the right of way for the public to travel across the layout of the road during times either in the future, if the town should decide to change its decision on creating a structure, if the Park Service permits, because they still own the underlying land, or simply that it would certainly be possible, as with other places in town, to travel by foot. And it is a public right of way.
Up to, if I may, again, I apologize for coming in late, but you're saying just that stretch up to the place where the river would be wider than it is now, and then you stop and look at the river and walk back. Is that what you're saying, down in marsh level, which will be all mushy? I'd like to hear from Carol on this. Again, I apologize for coming late, but it doesn't make any sense because that's going to be wetland that is mushy to work on. One of the things that was looked at years ago was sort of a wooden, a path, like that was kind of placed on top of the wetland. But even that is something which would be not the natural state of the marsh and would, to a certain extent, impede the tidal flow in terms of the flood tides. Why have anything man-made, human-made in that stretch? Given that if you want to walk around in the wetland and the marsh, like I have in Poldeck Marsh, my whole life, sometimes in high boots, falling in and getting stuck in muck, sure, anybody can do that. May we hear from Ms. Ridley? I'd really like to know what she thinks of this.
Carol?
Sure, thank you. Well, I do believe Helen's accurate in saying that there was extensive evaluation of various alternatives to full removal of the causeway, and the hands down selection was full removal of the causeway, and so that is that is the project element that's codified in numerous agreements in the plan set that was bid by the town and contracted by the town with N&M Excavating. So that is the plan going forward. I just wanted to address the concern that discontinuance would prevent the town from being able to remove the causeway, because I believe, and Jay can maybe chime in here just well, but the Seashore granted a special use permit for the work as reflected in the low road elevation and culvert replacement plans, which incorporates the removal of the causeway. So I believe that authorization from the Seashore to remove the causeway is part of that special use permit that's already been granted by the Seashore to the town.
That's correct.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Authorization doesn't mean having to do it. It means the authority or the ability to do it. Not necessarily that you're going to do it, but if you want to do it, you can.
Right.
Helen, does that answer your question?
It does. And I apologize for the fourth time that I came in late, but nobody told me about this. I should have just checked. Okay, sorry. Thank you for forwarding me the motion. But the motion didn't make it clear to me, really. I didn't understand the point of having it as a possibility in the future at any point. We don't want to walk 2 steps back here. Thank you very much.
I've got a question for you, Carol. And this is, I'm a little hazy on some of the geography. Way down the road, assuming everything goes according to plan, as I understand things, it's conceivable that there could be shellfishing in that area someday. Is that a misconception, or
In Lower Herring River?
Yeah.
That is long term. Yes, that is a possibility long term. Yes.
So how would the town retaining an easement there facilitate wild shellfishing? Is that a point of entry, for instance, for a wild shell fisherman? Potentially.
I don't know if that would be a viable point of entry. There's not really parking there at the end of High Toss Road where it would intersect with Way 672. If that's what you're getting at, that there would be an opportunity to sort of park and put in there. There have been features added to the design of the bridge to facilitate access to the water for the purpose of shellfishing upstream. So that, that's certainly been considered in the overall project design.
Okay, no, I was just, wondering about that specific spot. Helen, you have your hand up again?
Well, I just wanted to contribute to what was just asked. So we all know that on the other side, the west side of the river there, around where High Toss is perpendicular to it, right, is a firmer, there's the road there. And at low tides, that road is going to be, maybe drivable. It's drivable now if you've got the right vehicle. And if I were fishing and if there was a set that far up the river that could be harvested from, because remember, the DMF may not like the water quality there, and it may never be harvestable, John, but it will be maybe a spawning area, as it was just above where the existing dike is in the 70s when the dike was broken through. So we don't know if it would ever be harvestable, but what I would do if I was harvesting would be to look at the other side, not what's going to be a nice, wet, we hope, healthy salt marsh, between the end of High Toss Road and where the river will go through in a big way farther west, if I'm describing it in a way that you all can envision. So it's it might be harvestable, maybe not, but it might also be at low tides, which is how a lot of people have to harvest anyway. You could probably drive the right kind of vehicle along that bumpy road at the bottom of Griffin Island and get some, shellfish. I don't know. We'll see.
Julie? Julie, you have your hand up?
Oh, yes. Okay, I didn't hear that it was me. So I would like to ask Katie one more time, why did she feel this movement was prudent? And if we did vote to say we approved this, it still isn't our decision in the end. It's going to be the voters because it's going to have to go to town meeting. And but I know that this was a step to be prudent, to make sure all of our, T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. I just don't, since it was brought forward, what are we, I feel like we could miss something here if we don't do it or if we do. I mean, so this was brought forward to us as a recommendation. If you could go over that reasoning again, I would appreciate it.
Yes. I guess I recommended it because I thought it was prudent for the town to not have a public way that was not serving any purpose. And, it's important for towns to keep their records straight, and what's public is public, and obviously these are issues that arise. I was aware of the history from 2015 and 2016 that this had been vetted as to any future use of this area for the public, either a footbridge. Carol did a pretty deep dive into the history during that time, and I think Helen alluded to or spoke to that as well. So I guess I didn't see any reason not to discontinue it, and I thought that although I think it's very, very unlikely that someone could have a claim against the town because this remained a public way, I just, balancing the respective interests of having it be continue to be a public way, I just thought that would be an appropriate step to take. But if there are future rights, or if there are rights that the town wants to maintain, again, I think I was clear that I think that the seashore would need to be involved, as the owner of the underlying fee, and as a proponent of the project, as to anything that would happen there other than just, pedestrian use in the marsh.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so the project documents list river access locations. It says these points include enhanced access on both the upstream and downstream sides of Chequasaneck Road Dike, High Toss Road, Pole Lake Road, and Boundbrook Island Road. Each of these crossing points could be the site of construction during restoration. Would also, basically, I mean, this was always meant to be retained as potential access points to the project for the public.
I think I've become clearer in my mind that retaining that easement would not impede the project itself, and would at worst do nothing, and at best protect some rights of the town. If there's any further questions, or are we ready for a motion?
Carol has her hand up.
Oh, Carol, I'm sorry.
I just want to if you're going to make a motion, that's fine. I just want to come away from this conversation clearly understanding your intent, which is, I think, it is, well, I guess question is the intent here to potentially not proceed with the discontinuance, but fully understanding that the causeway will be removed and excavated as planned and as proposed and as permitted and funded, but that you are choosing not to discontinue for the reason of retaining the easement right.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Unless Josh,
No, that's my advocacy. I mean, my opinion to the suggestion to the board is that we just take no action. Is that we don't need to move on this. We don't need to make a motion. We can just move on.
Right.
Yeah, and if I can just put one more question out there, John, to Carol. So say down the road, we realize, yeah, we should have probably did that. I mean, it's just sitting there. We could do it later if we wanted to.
Well, Katie, that's my understanding is your opinion, right? That the removal can happen before the vote is taken, if a vote is ever taken.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, then maybe just to make it formal, should there be a motion to take no action, or do we not need to do that? I would be more comfortable if we did that.
Mr. Chair, I move to take no action on business D of this meeting.
Second.
We'll call vote.
Ryan, I.
Sheila, I.
Josh, I.
John, I. Passes 4-0 with one recusal. And then we will move on to business item E. Select Board to approve the order of taking to extend temporary easements necessary to complete low-lying road elevation and culvert work associated with the Herring River project. Carol?
Yeah, this one I believe is much more straightforward. Essentially, back in 2022, you took with town meeting authorization and recorded temporary easements from a number of property owners for work associated with the low road elevation and culvert replacements. And there was a time period stipulated that expires in August. And by that time, the work will not be completed. So this action is simply to extend those temporary easements and to give the contractor plenty of time to get the work completed, for that work to be inspected and confirmed by the town. The owners and grantors of the easements have all been notified of this. They've been sent a letter, with a certified letter with this information and letting them know the process that would be undertaken to move this along. So they, no issues there from property owners with this time extension.
Okay.
Are there any comments, board or town administration? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Select Board approve the order of taking to extend temporary easements necessary to complete low-lying road elevation and culvert replacement work associated with the Herring River Restoration Project.
You have a second? Ryan seconded. Roll call vote.
Ryan, I.
Sheila, I.
Josh, I.
And John, I. Passes 4-0 with one recusal.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Hey, thanks, Jay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And
Do you want to go back to the consent agenda? I sent Josh the fees.
yes,
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the following items with no objection. Renewal of common victual license for Billingsgate Market, Seabird Cantina, Max Shack, Max on the Pier, Max Market on the Pier. A use of town property for the annual MS Bike Ride, June 28th, 2026 for a fee of $500. Use of town property for WOMR Any Endurance, June 6th, 2026 for a fee of $800. Use of town property for the Wellfleet Gardens Club, May 23rd, 2026 for no fee.
Second.
call vote.
Ryan, I.
Sheila, I.
Josh, I.
Barbara make it back?
No.
She had to leave for a meeting in Truro, I think.
Yeah, she had a
Okay.
planning board meeting.
Okay, then, and John, then it passes 4-0 with one, absence. And that brings us to the shellfish, letter.
That's going to be deferred till your next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
The 17th. I'll make sure it's worded correctly.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And that brings us to select board reports. I have none. Does anyone else?
No, it feels like it's been a very long time between select board meetings.
Yeah.
Even though it really hasn't. You know, the storm we had was just a time warp. I would say that everybody, I mean, there's a lot of communication between administration, the emergency management team, and the public and the board. At the same time, the ability to actually communicate was pretty limited by a variety of technical issues with information systems and cell services across the area. And that it's hard to handle a situation like that where things are basically at that point you're down to the bottom of your contingency lists at some point in time. And I just really want to applaud town staff for what they were able to do.
Mhm.
All right, well, I certainly concur with that. And, anyone else?
I have correspondence, Mr. Chair, but I can wait till the end after all the reports.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. So why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. And it's relatively short, given that no one really
No one could communicate.
Yeah, but it's not enough.
Fan letters.
Okay, select board correspondence between February 21st and March 4th of 2026. As always, we had various administrative correspondence from the executive assistant regarding scheduling and documents for various meetings. Same with the town administrator. Received a letter from a member of the public regarding Maurice's campground and Wellfleet housing, expressing concern that LITC funding is driving the housing project rather than the town's long-term needs. We received a letter from a member of the public requesting a pause to the Maurice's Campground Planning Committee plan. I received a letter from a former seasonal employee in Ireland seeking old employment records from a previous employer in Wellfleet to renew their American passport. The town administrator sent an update notifying of significant tree damage across town. Notice from the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries that a public hearing was postponed because of the storm. Received a press release from the assistant town administrator regarding the winter storm. We received notice from the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries regarding a second virtual public hearing and public comment period. Notice from the Community Development Partnership regarding they have a new CEO and president. Notice from the Cape Cod Commission sharing their February 2026 reporter newsletter. Chief LaRocco shared a final update with emergency-related attachments related to the storm. The town administrator sent an update regarding the harbor and pumps related to the storm. The town administrator sent an IT update related to the storm. And I should say that there was many IT updates within that, along with the harbor master and Chief LaRocco. There's consistent updates. Received an invitation to participate in the fiscal year 26 regional CDBG grant, and there was attached materials to that. A member of the public shared suggested amendments to the minutes for the January 28th, 2026 shellfish hearings. The town administrator sent a return to normal operations update on March 2nd. The town administrator sent an update regarding town hall phones. We received a notice from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs regarding a remote MEPA consultation session. The executive assistants shared the short-term rental bylaw document. Received notice from the Cape Cod Commission Regulatory Office sharing the Cape Cod Commission's meeting agenda for March 5th. We received notice from Housing Assistance Cape Cod regarding a new date for the Cape and Islands Fair Housing listening session. We received 4 letters of concern from members of the public regarding draft short-term rental bylaws. Received a letter from the town administrator sharing a state of emergency declaration with the board. Received an invitation from the housing coordinator and the community development partnership to tour the residences of Lawrence Hill for later this month. We received another update from the town administrator regarding town IT. The town administrator notified the board of a vacancy on the board of library trustees. The town administrator sent an update regarding repairs to the town's fiber network. And then finally, Member Curley forwarded correspondence regarding High Toss Road and Duck Harbor Roads with the High Toss Road summary attachment.
Thank you. I just wanted to amplify one item. The reference to the pumps at the harbor is a reference to the fuel pumps at the fuel dock that were down for the count due to, I believe, internet connectivity issues or something related to that that prevented them from being able to dispense fuel. Town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things. First and foremost, you folks took it on at the beginning, Ryan recently, but I also want to give a shout out. I have talked to them individually, the department heads, to all of the folks that were involved in keeping people safe. That's basically what our job was over the week, was to do the best we could to keep people safe and keep our own staff safe. There were times we had to call the crews off because there were too many wires down. They couldn't work on the trees that were down, and had to wait for Eversource. The embedded representative from Eversource with us through the time was very helpful in getting our priorities established. We would send stuff down and the priorities might change when it got down to their end, but he was very good at putting our priorities in front. The volunteers, both staff and non-staff volunteers that came in, really helped keep the shelter going. I was there every day the shelter was open through Thursday. John Bugby was there. Rebecca was there. Jen Elsenson and her husband. Ian Schiffelhaus was there. The moderator and his wife were there. There were lots of people. I'm forgetting some, but Sheila was there. That's right. John was there. That's right. That's right. You know, you really see the best of a community when a community's in a rough, or I don't want to say worse time, but in a rough time. Citizen helping citizen, beyond what municipal, was just an amazing and heartwarming thing to watch. We're lucky here. It was good, and the folks, the food that came in from the community, from the World Central Kitchen folks, is fine. And yes, Ryan, to answer your question earlier, we are sending thank you letters to those folks that we know participated and helped us. We're doing that as a matter of course. So that's it for the storm. Couple of other, well, costs related to the storm. We've got an estimate on the fiber for this building, running from the fire station. That's about a $10,000 fix. The other fiber that's up to LeConte Hollow, and it looks like there may be a nick going over to the library too. The estimated cost from contract on that is about 30 grand total. That's including town hall. One of the things that we have instructed the departments to do, I don't know if there's going to be a request for a national declaration from the governor, but we're keeping all of the expenses all of the receipts, expenses, overtime, not straight time when people would normally be working. We can't charge that, but additional utilities, any equipment we had to bring in, overtime, we're keeping a track of all of that in case there is a declaration. We are going to be asking the governor's office to allow us to carry over the snow and ice deficit. That was done in either 13 or 15, I don't recall. Depending how much that snow and ice deficit is, We may be able to cover it through free cash, or we may want to carry it for a couple of years and do it a little bit at a time. That comes off your free cash each year as they certify. We're going to have to see how much it is and what makes the best sense, and we'll come back to the board for the determination on what they prefer to do and what their recommendation is on that. The only other thing that we're trying to do is help people that have down trees. If they can get them cut up to truckload size, they can bring them up to the pit. There's a tub grinder at the pit, and we'll try to take care of grinding that stuff up for people as well. We did abandon the purple bags over the weekend, and people really appreciated that. So hopefully we'll get some good results out of this study that we're doing at the transfer station. We're running short. Last week kind of threw a couple of things off. Public hearings that we were hoping to get publicized through the paper to get in. We probably need to have another work session, maybe next Monday if the board can do it, relative to the damages at the marina. I think we need to have the Marine Advisory Board here as well, but we really have to have a serious chat about what we can do down there and what getting open, how we're going to get open, how we're going to get those pilings replaced in time. John and I and Michael have been working on trying to figure out a way to expedite the progress, to get the progress done down there. But we really need to have a discussion on that, as well as moving out to the future. If we have dredging that needs to be done every 3 to 5 years, either for the maintenance dredge or the channel dredge or the mooring basin dredge, and there's no state money right now to help with that, we've got to talk about how we cover those costs, because the user fees that we have down there right now, even with a 10% increase, isn't going to come close to doing. If it's $3 million over 10 years, I don't know if you don't want to bond that out for 20. It's $300,000 a year plus the interest costs plus the service costs, and you're going to be doing this every few years. We got to figure out a better way because the townspeople can't afford to do that, and we got to have a what do we want to be when we grow up meeting on the marina. We have $200,000 that was appropriated back in, I think, 22. It could be 21. Out of free cash for a master study, a harbor master study. We need some of that money for the repair work as well. But I'd like to have, if we can get a meeting going next week, can people do that? We only have Mondays and Tuesdays right now, and it makes it, and this should be a meeting that's, the public can attend and listen. It should be, it can wait a couple of weeks, but I've got to get the fees set. We got to set the hearing for the fees. That takes 14 days because that's the legal requirement. We have to post 14 days in advance. But we do need to have a strategic meeting on marina operations, and maybe that's a month out, but we got to have an initial conversation.
Tom, I thought we had a public hearing set to discuss the issue of the D&E docks overwintering.
Yes, but that's not the issue that I'm talking about, John.
Right. Do we still have that plan?
I'll have to talk to Michael on that to see what he's got going with that. Yeah, it was something that was discussed to do. Yes.
We do have a marina meeting coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this is on the agenda.
I don't know either. If there's a place on that agenda where I can get in, I'll slide in tomorrow night and just ask them to attend a meeting. That's all.
Okay.
A public hearing is scheduled for next meeting, which is the March 17th.
Okay.
It's to determine the seasonal nature of any for receiving replacements and removal of the D&E docks and to further look at the financial well-being of the marina in the future.
All right, we can leave it on then. But it really should be a workshop. This is going to take a few hours.
I can make myself available, just everybody else.
Let's wait till after this meeting on the 17th.
I'm not available this coming Monday.
That's right. Okay, so we can't have it anyways. I want a full board on this. That's right, Ryan. You sent me an email on that.
Just keep me in the loop. I'll make sure.
All right. I'll send out some times and dates both to the MAB and the select board and see what we can do on that. But I do think this is a long-term conversation, but it has to be held. We got to start it at some point.
I agree.
Mr. Chair, through you, just the town administrator, and to the rest of the board. I'm going to have to be traveling for work likely the last week of March and possibly into the beginning of the first week in April. So please schedule meetings even if I might be away. Don't let me hold you up, but I just want to let you know the end of this month and the beginning of next month, I'm likely going to be out of the country.
Okay. We're trying to fit, a size 10 foot and a size 3 shoe right now.
Totally get it. I just want to let everyone know.
I'm open to meeting on Fridays, even though I know that others have issues with that.
I can make it.
If it was in the day or late out, in the afternoon, I'm happy to. I can't always commit because sometimes I'll commit to something on a Friday night, but I will make sure that I'm there on Fridays as well. Mondays and Wednesdays are generally good for me. I know that other people have classes and things like that, but just so you have that.
Tom, I mentioned I was tentatively planning on being out of town for work between the 26th and the 30th.
Right. Well, maybe after that, but if nothing else, it's on your radar screen that we've got to start this conversation.
I'll have a laptop with me. And actually, most of that will be over a weekend anyway. Yeah. So
I'd really prefer a full board if we can do this with a full board. This is important.
I agree. Okay. Was that it for the
budget? The new health agent has started, as you know. Her first day was Monday. She will be at your meeting on the 17th for a appropriate formal introduction.
Good.
Great.
Okay.
That's good news right there.
Yeah, she's very excited. We have great hopes.
Hey,
we have to keep her excited.
Yeah.
And interest.
It won't be lack of work that will. Yeah, that's for sure.
Is that it for the?
I'm all done, Mr. Chairman, for now.
Okay, then we'll move on to topic.
Ryan has his hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's a topic for a future agenda or schedule, which is also on the agenda. I'm not sure if the consultant will be available on the is it the 19th?
16th.
Or whichever date it is that there's currently a joint meeting with the Maurice's committee for. She has an engagement in Truro that night and is trying to get clarity on whether or not she's available or not. That's Keenan.
Based on the schedule you had sent me, Ryan, she was open that day.
I don't know. Maybe
things change. That had been a couple of weeks old, so things change.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully, I was gonna bug Barbara because but she
bailed on you.
Yeah.
In connection with that, Tom, is the wastewater consultant still available for that meeting?
Yes. For your sewer commissioners meeting.
Right.
Yes.
No, for the joint meeting with the Maurice's committee.
Yeah, Fran Getchell will be available, yes. Yes, Weston and Sampson is available for that meeting.
Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two topics for future discussion. Member Carboni brought this up at our last meeting. I thought it was good. Sometime in the near future, does not necessarily have to be for the next meeting or two, but I think we should have a discussion on how we handle members of the public wanting their documents included in our minutes or our packets. It's starting to, I'm starting to see the frequency of this request tick up, and I think we just need to have a discussion with the board on how we want to handle it so that the public understands how we handle it. That's number one. Number two, we need to bring onto the agenda the revisions to Section 7 of the charter and the new bylaw.
Yes.
But this is directed to the town administrator. Before we can put that on the agenda, we need to hear back from town council on their opinions of the language itself. We haven't received it.
Okay, I'll find it.
Received, yeah. So to you, Mr. Chair, we need to get that on the agenda before we close the warrant because this has to be a warrant article. But Fran and I need to receive.
All right, let me talk to Carolyn again because she gave me something, but it was whether you wanted to.
Yeah, it was an opinion of process. We don't need an opinion of process. We need an opinion of the language we sent.
Of the language. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anything else?
No.
Yeah, I see that we're not dealing with minutes today.
We have minutes.
There's two, the 28th of January and the 17th of February.
And if everybody's happy with them, I'm happy to make a motion.
Well, there's two. You have to look. The 28th is mine, and then the second one behind it is with Josh's amendments. I don't care either one. You let me. I would have preferred probably to go with Josh's just because they're a little bit more detailed in the area that the resident requested. So.
Yeah. I will articulate that it's not verbatim what was requested. I thought there were some valid points, and I also found some of the details could use a finer point. So this wasn't a simple one to the other job. I read through it all and added what I thought was pertinent, but not necessarily everything. But I would offer the amendments to the board to consider for January 28th. I think they're appropriate.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of January 28th, 2026 as amended.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
John, aye. Passes 4-0 with one absence.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the meeting minutes of February 17th, 2026 as drafted.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
And John, aye. Passes 4-0 with one absence.
It was very nice seeing everyone.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Brian, aye.
Sheila, aye.
Josh, aye.
and John, aye.
Yes, it is coming. How nice.
It was very nice seeing everyone.
Don't forget to spring your clocks forward on Saturday.
That's right, or we'll
Bring
be
ahead. Lose an hour's sleep.
all our meetings. So good to see you. Glad everybody survived in one piece and on to spring.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Good night.